Algebra II, 5.4a, factor polynomials with a common factor. If you haven't seen the previous videos for Chapter 5, you might become confused, and there's links in this video's description so you can watch those quickly. Factoring is the reverse of multiplying, and to factor an expression means to write it as an equivalent expression that's a product. When factoring a polynomial, first look for common factors. We have 3x squared plus 12. When we factor this, the 3 can be factored out because 12 is 3 times 4. We can make it 3 times x squared plus 4. 3 is the common factor between the 3 and the 12. If we were to multiply this back and distribute it back in, we'd get 3x squared plus 12. And we know we did it correctly. Okay? Well, in some cases, there's more than one common factor. In 5x to the fourth minus 20x to the third, we can actually pull out this x to the third here as an x to the third plus 1 for that x to the fourth. We can pull out 5x to the third on each side. 4 times 5 is 20. And we get 5x to the third times x minus 4, because 1x is left over here minus the 4. We've gotten rid of this 5x to the third and that 5x to the third, and the only thing that's left over is x to the first power minus 4. See? We factored out that 5x to the third. And it's the greatest common factor for 5 to the fourth, x to the fourth, and 20x to the third. This little x to the first power minus 4 was left over. For this one, what do 12 and 20 have in common as factors? Well, 12 is a 3 times 4 and 20 is a 5 times 4. So we can pull out a 4x squared from here and a 4x squared from here. This is x plus 2 plus 1, see? When we pull out the 4x squared from here and here, we're left with a 3 and 1x, see? And the 5. These y's can come out because they're in common. So now we've pulled out 4x squared y, and we're left with 3 minus 5 and 1x, see? That x squared and x to the third have an x squared in common because that x to the third is a 2 plus 1, see? Now this one's a little more difficult. It's a little more involved. What we do is we first look for what numbers, what factors the 10, the 4, and the 2 have in common. Well, the 10 is a 5 times 2, the 4 is a 2 times 2, and that 2 is just its 2. We look at the variables here, and we see the smallest p is p to the fourth, and the smallest q is q to the second. So we can pull those out. That means we have 5 times 2, p to the fourth, because that's the smallest p, see? Plus 2, that would make that 6. And then q to the second power is the smallest q. Minus 2 times 2, p to the fourth plus 1 to make that 5. Q to the second plus 1 to make that 3. This 2p to the fourth is fine. And then this q is q to the second power plus 2. So we can pull out p. We can pull out 2p to the fourth, q to the second from here, and from here. And what we're left with is the 5 p to the second. That little second right there is left over for that p. We've got a 2 left over right here. It's going to be minus 2. And there's 1 p left over and 1 q left over that we put there, plus this little q to the second that was left over from the plus 2. See? So we factored out 2 p to the fourth and q to the second. And if we distributed this back in, we would end up with this original equation, that original expression. See? So we looked at the p exponents, found the smallest one, and then did p to the 6 as a 4 plus 2 and the p to the 5 as a 4 plus 1, so we could pull the p to the fourth out. See? We did the same thing for the q. The smallest one was the 2 that could fit into all of them. So q to the third is a 2 plus 1. Q to the fourth is a 2 plus 2. We were able to pull that q to the second out and then list the rest of the remaining ones. See? When we try to factor out all common factors, and when we do this, we've factored the greatest common factor. And not all polynomials have common factors, all right? So we have to be careful. Our next video is 5.4b. We're going to talk about factoring trinomial squares. We talked about this in Algebra 1. We're going to go over it again. This video is going to be added to the Algebra 2 playlist so you can study. And there's going to be a link to Chapter 5 from Algebra 1 that covered a lot of this stuff in binomial squares and everything. And the previous videos for this current chapter are going to be linked into this description. So you can just click on them, all right? So we're going to discuss factoring trinomial squares next, and I hope I'll see you there. Bye.